Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Jedi Knights Watch for another Star Wars Hot Toys figure unboxing and review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the brand spanking new SnowSpeeder Luke from The Empire Strikes Back. Now, this is a figure that I went back and forth on getting ever since it was announced by Hot Toys. I had the Return of the Jedi Deluxe version, but I wound up selling that one to help pay for my Batmobile, and since I kind of got top dollar for it, I had some money left over. I needed a Luke in the collection, so I said, you know what, it's time. Let's get the SnowSpeeder Luke and see what it's all about. I've heard some really good things about this figure, so I am excited to take a look at him with you today. Before we get too far into it though, I want to invite you to like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you can be a part of the community and help the channel on our quest to 3,000 subscribers. Alright, let's get into this. Let's take a look at the art box. It is the typical Star Wars art box, the plain Jane front with a portrait of the figure on the front. And I gotta say, I'm not a big fan of the old Luke Skywalker head sculpts, but it's weird because I think the hair sculpt here actually puts the face sculpt over the top and makes it look more realistic. Wasn't a huge fan of the Return of the Jedi head sculpt with the eyes looking off to the one side, plus the hair. I don't know, the combination just didn't look right, so I'm hoping this one looks even better. But there's no cigar band or anything like that on the bottom, so typical Star Wars box. On the back it does have all the legal language, and when we take the slide cover off, we do get the Empire Strikes Back 40th anniversary style box with the window display, and we do have extra pictures of the figure all over the box. A lot of people like this box. I'm not a huge fan. I just think it looks a little bit cheap and toyish. I like the high-end stuff a lot better, but hey, I don't mind Hot Toys trying new stuff. Just doesn't always work, right? So when we open it up and we take the figure out and take the plastic covers off, we get our first look at the figure, and I gotta say, the coat looks a lot different in person than I thought it would, so you know, that's exciting. But we'll take the figure out and we'll get a closer look at it. But first, let's take a look at the base and accessories that he comes with. And here we have the base that comes with the figure, and there's actually more here than I'm used to seeing with a base, and it does look a lot different than what I'm used to seeing as well. Starting with the actual base itself, we have the underside of an Imperial Walker, which is kind of weird, and we'll get into that in 1 second. But it's a white base, and it's got kind of a cool just black and white front, printed front here. It says Star Wars Luke Skywalker's got an X-Wing, and then the Rebel sigil or logo there. And then right here is where the waist grabber kind of pegs in. And they gave us this waist grabber instead of a crotch grabber, and it's white, and it's kind of just got a unique kind of look to it. Kind of an interesting choice there. I much rather would have a crotch grabber than a waist grabber, but it is what it is. And then you have these stickers or these little cards that kind of can go on top to change up the base and how it looks, so you can just put the snow on top. Or we do have a scene from Dagobah, and it's got this little texture to it so that when you move it, you can go fog or no fog. Kind of a weird gimmick there. I'm not sure how I feel about the bottom of an Imperial Walker, and the reason they did this is because they made it so you could attach this to the ceiling, I suppose, because the harpoon gun is magnetized here, so you could have him kind of shooting upward at the bottom of an Imperial Walker. I can't think of anybody that's actually going to do that, so I don't think that was a risk worth taking for Hot Toys. I think it's kind of a waste. I would have much rather had the snow printed on, and then if you really want, make this the card that people can put on if you want. Just my personal opinion. But then if we want, we can put the snow on like so, and then it comes with this sculpted piece, which somewhat looks like snow. I wish it was a little bit more white. I think there's a little bit too much texture going on that kind of doesn't make it look as realistic to snow, but you can do that. You can put it this way so that the front of your nameplate is still showing. But it is cool because it is kind of like a mini diorama piece, so I do like that a lot. I just wish that the snow was printed on instead of the bottom of the Imperial Walker. And here we have all the accessories that come with Luke Skywalker. We have the lightsaber and blade. We have the swoosh motion blade. We have the sculpted hand holding the blade that has the battery compartment that you can light up the blade. An assortment of different hands here that do not have gloves on. 2 more with gloves. His, I guess you would call this the harpoon gun. His blaster. His detonator here. His cap that goes under the helmet. His pilot helmet. And his chin strap. Now let's take a look at them individually, more in depth. Starting with the hilt and lightsaber blade. It's a very nice hilt from Empire Strikes Back. The blade is very, again, it's pretty desaturated. There's a little bit more color towards the bottom, but again, I really wish Hot Toys would paint these a little bit brighter. But I understand I wish they would just get away from doing these, because I have never used this myself. I don't know anybody else that does. These are kind of tricky. You got to unpeg the arm from the elbow and then peg this in. It can be quite the hassle. Then you have to take out this compartment here, put the little batteries in. It is just, it's a nightmare for something that isn't really well lit and doesn't last very long at all. And here is the swoosh blade. And you can see I think it's a little darker down here, and then it gets a little bit lighter towards the top, just to kind of give that motion of the lightsaber itself. They give us 2 gripping hands here. The blaster hand and then just a resting hand. Kind of an odd assortment of hands, but here they are. Again, you've seen one, you've kind of seen them all. Looks nice. What I really like is the gloved hands, and he does have the resting hands on the figure now, and then he comes with 2 gripping hands. I love the texture, I love the paint application here. The sculpt of the glove looks really, really good. You can see the sculpted seams going on there. Just a lot of cool texture in the glove. His harpoon gun, it is flexible in the back, so you can kind of move it as you will, and it does clip to the outfit as well. And this can pull out and harpoon to the base, and it just pops out, and then you can re-spindle it there. Kind of hard to do on camera. His blaster has a really nice paint application, lots of speckling and pitting going on. Just looks very authentic. It's got like a dry brush over it, just again to bring out the detail and make it more realistic. Really nice scope there on the side as well. Then he comes with the detonator. The cap that goes over when you take the hair off, this just pegs right in, and then the helmet goes over it. But again, really nice paint application here. Really nice weathering going on. Look at the detail. Looks like the real thing, if I wouldn't say so myself. And then the real treat is this helmet. Look at all of the dirt and grime going on in the edges. Just all of this awesome detail. You got like paint chips going on here in the emblems as well. Just looks super, super authentic. Really like it a lot, and the visor does go up if you want. So really cool piece here. And here we have our first look at SnowSpeeder Luke. And I gotta say, he looks great. I think he's gonna look excellent on the shelf with this bright orange jumpsuit, this pilot suit. He's gonna have a lot of shelf presence. I love that they did some extra weathering on the figure as well. It doesn't look too clean, but it doesn't look overly dirty as well. I think Hot Toys got it right in the sweet spot. The head sculpt I think looks pretty good, and we'll get into that in a minute. But I do think, I'm going to go out on a limb, just first looks here, and I do think this is the most authentic Luke we've gotten to date that has been released. So I do think that this is going to be Hot Toys' best looking Luke so far, and we'll see what happens when Mandalorian Luke comes out, Bespin Luke, but I gotta say, this figure is iconic for Empire Strikes Back, and it screams just Star Wars nostalgia, so it is really, really exciting to see finally in person. But now let's take a closer look at the figure. Alright, and here we are up close and personal with our Luke Skywalker, and we'll start with the head sculpt here. I think it looks pretty good. The paint applications are definitely a lot better than previous figures that we've seen. The hair looks great. I love the new sculpted hair. It does help the head sculpt a bit, make it more like Mark Hamill. They've never been able to get Mark Hamill 100% right, but I think this is the closest to date. The hair does pop off, and it is magnetic, and that way you can get the helmet on there. The coat does ride up a little bit high, so when putting the hair back on, just be careful. I kind of tilt my head forward and put the hair back on that way, so it doesn't get caught in the collar here. He does have his mechanical apparatus here, and you can see just the weathering in the suit all over. Look at all that stuff. Just makes it look more realistic, even on the bottom of the coat. He's got the hose that kind of runs into the pocket. Again, the gloves look really good. Lots of detail going on there. And this material is like a windbreaker material, which is interesting. I wasn't sure it was going to be like that or not, but yeah, I like that a lot as well. It's a pleather belt with pleather pouches. They do not open up, but again, really good detail, and they look really fantastic. Pleather holster here as well, with a magnetic strap. Going down to the pants, you can see more weathering going on in the seams themselves, weathering on the straps here. Just really good job by Hot Toys making it look, again, worn, weathered, and realistic. These guys can slide out, so just be careful you don't lose them. The boots are interesting as well. They're fully fabric, except for the bottoms, which are even a little bit dirty as well. But they look great. They almost look like Alaskan shoes or like moccasins or something like that. But they're going to have very good movement in the ankle, so that's really nice to see. We don't see these. I mean, it's hard to like remember what the boots look like. They look funny when I'm just looking at them, but I'm sure they'll look like that in the movie as well. So it's just something, again, that I'd have to kind of go back and watch the movie a little bit closer. But yeah, you can even see just more weathering on the gloves themselves too. I love this figure. He looks great. I'm excited to get him into some poses and then on the shelf. But first, let's take a look at articulation. And before we do get into articulation, I did want to show you what he looks like with his helmet on. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do it with the camera rolling because it was kind of finicky to get on. I actually already broke off the strap from his undercap. Luckily, that can just be glued right back into place. But man, make sure you read the directions that come with the figure, because this thing is a little finicky, I guess, to get on. Not sure I'm going to keep the helmet on, but this is kind of what it looks like with the helmet on. The chin strap just kind of slots in. Nothing holds it, so you can just take it out. And then you can move the visor up as well, but be careful because it's hard to get the visor back down when he's wearing it. So I would just be careful with that. But here it is with the visor up. I put the cap on the inside of the helmet and then slotted the head through. But again, too, with this kind of collar here, it does kind of push up against the helmet as well. So it kind of wants to be pushed up and not sit right on the head. So it is a little hard to get on and to kind of keep where you want it. But that's what he looks like with his pilot helmet. And taking a look at articulation, we have pretty good movement in the head. Looking up does restrict a little bit from this collar. The arms go out to about 90. Forward to about there, kind of bunches up at the shoulder. And we do have double bend there. Regular swivel here. Swivel in the bicep. Not a little bit of movement in the abdomen, but not much. Legs to about there. Sounds like a ratchet in the knee. To about there. Swivel in the thigh. And of course we do have that, pretty much that open, there's no restrictions really in the ankles themselves, and legs go out to about there as well. All right, let's get them into some poses, talk about what I like and dislike about the figure. Starting with the things that I really like about the figure, the first would be that they went with a new hair sculpt. Yes, not a head sculpt, a hair sculpt. I am not the biggest fan of this likeness to Mark Hamill, but I think the new hair sculpt really does help make him look more like Luke Skywalker. The second thing that I really like about the figure is the fact that his coat is like this real nylon-y windbreaker type material. I wasn't expecting that, and then when I got him out of the package, I was like, ooh, that's pretty cool. That's makes the figure look more authentic and realistic, and just a nice surprise from Hot Toys. The third thing that I really like about the figure is the weathering that Hot Toys put into it. I know when we saw the prototype, there wasn't that much weathering going on, but Hot Toys did just enough to make this thing look amazing. Great job with the weathering. Now for some things that I didn't like as much. The first would be the base. I know, I probably say that a lot because maybe there's just this disconnect between what Hot Toys does and what I'm expecting, but I feel like they don't really put their resources into one specific spot. They just try to give you a bunch of cheap ways to create looks, where I wish they would just put all their efforts into one way to make a base. Like, they kind of give you a half-assed diorama with a little bit of snow that could look better, but I think the thing that really bothers me is the fact that they put the underbody of a Imperial Walker on the base, and then you can put that on the ceiling and have the harpoon gun like magnetized to it. I'm like, who's really gonna do that? I mean, come on. I wish they would have changed up the base and gave us something really, really cool. The second thing that I don't like is just kind of how the helmet attaches to the head, and I know this is why we didn't get a new head sculpt, because the hair is detachable, so this way they can just put the helmet on, just like the Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker. So I understand why they did it this way, but part of me wishes that they would have given us an extra head sculpt with the head just kind of molded into the helmet. However, there is a drawback to that too, because then we wouldn't be able to have Luke Skywalker holding his helmet, his empty helmet. So there is kind of that drawback there, that catch-22. The third thing that I don't like is the fact that it seems like they kind of skimped on the hands a little bit. Now, if you guys have watched me for a while, like, the hands are, to me, the most boring part. They're just hands. But when you don't get enough hands, you kind of see, like, the problem with it. Like, you can't do as much when you don't have all of the types of hands that you need to pull it off. Like, for instance, the ungloved hands, we only have one resting hand. You know, there's only one ungloved hand that can hold the pistol. It just would be nice to have those other options. Outside of that, this figure is awesome. I'm really hyped to have him in the collection. I'm glad that I picked him up. He's going to look great on the shelf with, like, the blue Lando, the green Boba Fett, and the green Leia, then the white with the Stormtroopers. It's just going to add so much more character to the Star Wars shelf. Alright guys, well that's it. Let me know if you've picked this up. Let me know what your thoughts are on the figure in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss any new content coming your way. Alright guys, until next time, stay safe out there, and we'll see you soon.